chapter 4, Genesis chapter 4, we're done with that. And now we're going to start with Genesis chapter 5. It's interesting, chapter 5, because there are many men's named there that are very, very old. And it's called the genealogy. A list of genealogy all the way to the end of chapter 5. And we're not going to go through the names of all these people. Remember, we're going through the Genesis fast. Once in a while, I'm going to skip over some things and move on. Once in a while, I will do that. So we're not going to stay studying the book of Genesis for 20 years. So we're going to go through quickly. So chapter 5, we're finished with that, and we'll finish that tonight, and we're going to start chapter 6 tomorrow. Okay. Verse 1 says, "This is the written account of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, He made them to be like Himself." So first of all, maybe we remember at the time that we started studying Genesis, we were talking about who wrote Genesis. Do y'all remember who wrote Genesis? Moses, right. Jesus spoke, that's correct, but who actually wrote? It was Moses. And wrote down the account. So in the book of Genesis, it's silent about who wrote the book. And according to Jewish tradition or beliefs, the first 5 books in the Old Testament, the first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The first 5 books Moses wrote. Exodus, obviously Moses wrote those, but Genesis, it doesn't say exactly who wrote these books, but we believe that Moses wrote that also. Why? Because he was the only one, Moses seems to be the only one with a very high education. Remember where he grew up. He grew up in Egypt. And he had a very good education, not like other Jewish people. He was highly educated. So they believe Moses wrote Genesis as well. So now, as we go through this account of names, how did Moses himself receive all of these names, this list of names? How would he know? Remember, Moses was not there before the flood. So how would Moses know this list of names? And Jesus told him. But really what's more possible is that Noah kept records. Because he was the only man in his family who survived and kept names before the flood. And of course, after the flood, all the records would be destroyed. So apparently Noah kept all of these names. Maybe Moses found Noah's writings and took those and then wrote them into the book of Genesis. Well, we don't know that for sure. We don't know exactly how, okay? So now in the bottom part of this verse it says, He made them, the people, to be like Himself. What does that mean? In His image, right? God made us in His image. We discussed that before in Genesis 1:26, when God said, "Then God said, let us make human beings in our image to be like us."
There it goes. It's done.
In our image means what? Does it mean just exactly God has 2 eyes, a nose, and all that stuff? It's exactly like that? What does that mean, in his image? To look like him? He's spiritual, and we're like that? I was thinking maybe humans are the only ones that can communicate, think, feel, I don't know, make judgments, creative. Animals don't invent things. They don't. You know, insects, in their nature, birds, building a nest. It's their instinct. It's their natural instinct. But people have to learn things. People have to be taught. It's different than animals. So clearly, we are like him. We are creative. We're able to learn. For the ability to invent things. We can make judgments. We can think for ourselves and make decisions, not like animals. Okay? So now, in verse 2, it says, He created them male and female, and God blessed them and called them. Why did he call them human? Did you say something? So it's interesting, if you look at different Bible translations, it's interesting. Some of them are different. Some of them are the same, but some of them are different. In the KJV version, it's a little different. It says, and call their name Adam, meaning we are called Adam. I understand that because Adam was the blood of man, and he was human, and we are human, right? And there's another word in other translations. In the NASB, it says man. He named them man. It makes sense because if you notice, in the Bible, it says man doesn't mean only male, it also means female, men and women. In the Bible, when it says verses like man or men, it really means all men and women, all people. So that makes sense. And then another. No, this is not related to Jesus. Just talking about Adam, talking about humans, the human race. And this other word, mankind, this is more applicable for today. We use that today in English, mankind, meaning people all over the world. The human race, just like us. In other Bible translations, don't put that on there. It says human beings, humankind, like a group of human beings or humans. So why is it called that? Male and female are called humans. You're stuck. Because you want to say man, woman. So what can we call the whole race? We call them humans. So you know on TV, Dr. Spock? You know Dr. Spock?
Long and prosper.
Is he human? No. He was walking. He was not like humans. He was different. But of course, there are no, you know, people from other planets that look like humans. There are none. No such thing. Just us.
Don't write on the pen. Can't write on that, sweetie.
So what do you call this whole group of people? We call them humans. Got it? So verses 3 and 4 of chapter 5, when Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him in his very image. And he named his son Seth. And after the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So we know that Adam passed away when he was 930 years old. So the point of this is, it's interesting. It says Adam's son, Seth, he was in the exact image. He was just like him. What does that mean? Maybe our children, one of our sons look just like his daddy, and the other one looks just like me. So maybe that's what it means. Okay, anything else? Seth, he was related to Noah, and he had a good heart, and he was good, and then afterwards everything just became bad. Yeah, but we're talking about Adam. Adam was good. He rebelled too, remember? So, but really, from my studies, it means that Seth was a sinner just like Adam. That's all it means. He was a sinner just like Adam. Seth was a good man like his father, like son. No, that's not what it meant. It meant he was a sinner just like his father was a sinner. And all of us are descended from Adam and Eve, and all of us are sinners. Who has the exception to that? Jesus Christ. So now, I'm not going to go through this whole list of names. You guys can read it for yourself and see what the names of all each father, son, and all this stuff, all the way down to verse 21 and 22. Are you happy? You happy I'm not going to go through that list of genealogy? It may be boring. Yeah, but you can, if you read it for yourself, you can learn something from it. Verses 21 and 22. When Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. Now, who is Methuselah? He lived to be 969. He was the oldest man named. He was 969 years old. What'd you say? Enoch became the father of, at 84, excuse me. And then he lived to be 969. It's very interesting. Yeah. So he lived to be 969 years old. And then he died. It's not like he was special and he lived that long. He's, what's his secret, of living such an old age? Some of these old people who live to be 101, they say, well, what's your secret? And they say, oh, well, I just drink water every day, wine every day. We don't know what their secret is. It's not like that. So we'd be surprised if anybody lives to be 122 or something. I don't know, we would be surprised. So anyway, many in other countries, they really emphasize Methuselah, that he lived to be 969. They have, books that have been, you know, extra books, extra biblical books, extra biblical writings that are not in the canon, they're not in the Bible, that are about Methuselah. But there's nothing special about that. His name, the name, oh, you jumped ahead, you jumped ahead. Methuselah. We'll see if this is the same thing, and then if it's not, you can add to it. But it means, this name means, but wait a minute. Enoch named his son Methuselah. And, you know, God gave him that name. And it means, there are some variations of this, but I picked one that was, you know, it's the same meaning, just some variation. It says, when he dies, there shall be an emission. Is that the same thing? A little bit different. Means that there will be a flood. God's judgment will be poured out. So when he dies, there shall be an emission, meaning flood. So, how did he die? The Bible doesn't say. But he died in the same year when there was a flood, in the exact same year. There's a question. This name, Methuselah, before he died, Noah created, did he start building this ark? And then after he died, it was time for the flood. Well, that's possible. We're not sure. Maybe he helped. He's saying maybe he helped Noah build a boat. We don't know. But he died in the same year. Did he die? Did he drown because of the flood? We don't know. Some people say no. We don't know. So Robert says Noah's uncle, Methuselah, was Noah's uncle. That's interesting. And the Bible said that he mourned for 1 week when he died. And then they all got into the ark. Methuselah, he was Noah's grandfather. I thought he was Noah's grandfather. In the genealogy, it says the father. It says he's his grandfather. But obviously, he died in the same year as the flood. So we're not really sure how he died. So you can see it says in there it's in the same year. So remember this, when Methuselah was 187 years old, he became the father of Lamech. He was 187, remember that. And then Lamech was 182 years old when he became the father of a son. And he named his son Noah.
Marley.
So you can figure this all out, how old, we're 969. Okay, hold this, I'm sorry, one more verse. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So do the math. Anybody good at math? You don't like math? Too bad. All right, so look at this. He was 969 when he died. He was 187 when he became a father. And then he was 182 when he became...
When Lamech had a son.
Huh?
When Lamech had a son.
Yeah, when he became a grandfather. And then 500 years old after Noah, so that left 100 years. So recently, Noah was building an ark in the year that there was, the Bible doesn't say this, but there's been talk that it took 75 years old for the ark to be built, not 120 years. Because at that time, Methuselah he was 100. He was about 100. No, wait a minute, I'm wrong. So it left 100 years. So it was 100 years, and do you think Noah was born at that time? No. So we think maybe he was 20 or 30 when Noah began building the ark. So if he was 120, it doesn't fit. You mean this? Yeah, people use this verse to prove that it was 100 years. And that the boat started lifting from the flood. People use this. They say it was 120 years. But no, that's not true. It doesn't fit the age of Methuselah. I'm confused. Somebody said I'm confused. So it's to prove that Noah his son built the ark for 120 years? No, but it doesn't say that in the scripture. People use this verse to prove that it took Noah 120 years to build the ark. It took him about 75. In some figure, it took him 6 years. Can you imagine 6 years? No, I don't know. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so back again to this verse where we're talking about Methuselah. It says Enoch lived in close fellowship. Remember, he was famous for what? God just took him. He just disappeared. He walked into heaven. Some people think that, he just walked with God into heaven. But the Bible doesn't say that. It just says he was gone. Like he was missing. They looked for him. They couldn't find him. No, that doesn't say that in the Bible. He was just missing. And God took him. Walked meant that he had a very close fellowship with God. And when Enoch was 65 years old, he became the father of Methuselah. And after the birth of Methuselah, Enoch lived in close fellowship with God for another 300 years. Walking in close fellowship with God. Then one day, he disappeared because God took him. So Enoch, he was so close to God. He continually focused on God and God's teaching and leading. He was so focused on him, so close. Like Jesus said, you who are weary, you who have heavy burdens, come to me, and I will give you rest. And you will take my yoke, like an ox wears, and my yoke is light. It wasn't being on vacation. No, it was like an animal had to learn from the older animal or the stronger animal, and he would follow. He was yoked to the one that was training him, and he would follow him, and he would learn from that other animal, ox, that had already been trained. So it's the same idea here. That Enoch was that way with God. Wow. Are we like that? Are we like Enoch? No, we stray. Enoch walked with God in close fellowship. In Amos 3 verse 3 it says, can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction? Meaning they have to agree. So without agreement, they can't walk together. One would go away and one would, there would be arguments, excuse me. So they both agree and they walk together. So Enoch was, excuse me, was this way. You know, the hall of faith, what does that mean? Yeah, I taught about that. What does that mean, the hall of faith? Not you, Robert. The hall of faith? What's that mean? In Hebrews chapter, I think it's chapter 4. I think 4. A drum roll! Ta-da! 11! Oh, chapter 11. The Hall of Faith. You know, the Hall of Fame, like sports, baseball players and all that stuff. But this is called the Hall of Faith. There's a list of people in chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. Speaks about Abel. And Cain killed Abel. And then the next was Enoch.
And he goes,
Oh.
I'm assuming that's a hearing idiom. Can you tell me what that means?
So it says in Hebrews 11 verse 5, it was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. He disappeared because God took him. For before he was taken up, he was known as a person who pleased God. And he's a good example for us. We should understand that we have been saved and we shouldn't live like people of the world. We live under God's teaching, His control, His leading, His guidance, and our goal is to walk with Him, and that's a good example for us. Any questions about that? So it's interesting, I'll let you know that a few people out there believe that Enoch did just walked up into heaven, but he did die. Few people believe that Enoch just went straight up to heaven, but he really did die. He did not die. I'm sorry, he did not die. When Lamech, remember that? There was another person named Lamech. Remember that? Methuselah, the Lamech is a different person than who we were talking about before. This is two different people. The pre-flood there was a Lamech, and then there was a Lamech after the flood. But no, he was the son of Noah, and that was before the flood. After or before are you talking about? After Noah or before? Before the flood. Two different people. So it's interesting. Lamech named his son Noah from the Hebrew word meaning comfort. Sounds like the Hebrew word we're not sure. But Hebrew word means comfort, not English. But Noah sounds like the Hebrew word comfort in the Hebrew language. And it says, may he bring us relief from our work and the painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord has cursed. Comfort before the Hebrew, after the flood. It's not connected to that. Hang on, we're talking about the Hebrew word? No, I'm talking about the Hebrew language, not Hebrew book. In Genesis, all this writing, these writings were talking about what happened before the flood. And they were all in the Hebrew language. But the language itself in the Bible, that's what we're talking about. Okay? Like, for example, no, that's a bad example, never mind. So, some people say it means rest. But some people's viewpoint means when he was born, they felt comfort. You know, I've been working, and they're thrilled that they have a baby that was born. That was their viewpoint. But Robert said could mean rest, like Noah rested after the flood. Is that what you're talking about? Meaning the name means rest. Connected to what? Abbreviated, everything means one word means rest. But what do you mean? What's the point of that? What do you mean? Oh, we'll talk about it later. I'm just trying to figure out what you're saying. All right. So remember, the ground was cursed, meaning what? Remember? Chapter 3. Remember when Adam took the fruit that Eve offered him, and God punished them, and he said you would have to work the ground with sweat and scratch a living from it. That meaning it would be a hard life, hard work. So now, the last verse in chapter 5. Maybe it meant his sons would help him work. Yay, I got a son, now he can help me work. Who knows? So verse 32, it says, after Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So we're going to discuss these three later. That's in chapter 9 and chapter 10. So we'll talk about them later. Okay? That's it. Any questions?